there, and welcome to our weekly craft, a source for ideas, inspiration, and fun for crafters. I'm Sarah White, Chief Maker at ourdailycraft.com, and this week I want to talk to you about my Crafty TBR list. So you may see that a nice stack of books here today, which I sort of pull at random from things that I want to read, things I have read that I want to read again, things I got from the library last week when I went to the library. Yeah, just some inspirational stuff, and sort of to talk about like how I use the library and things like that. Em is still wearing the dress I talked about last week because I haven't gotten back to finishing it yet, but hopefully soon. End of the month seems like it always, like all my projects pile up and it's like, okay, I just have to do the things that I have to do, and I'm not getting to the extra stuff. So sewing has been back burner for the last week, but hopefully I can get back to that this weekend or early next week and show you the finished version of that soon. The sweatshirt is from Life So Savory. I believe it's just called a women's tunic sweatshirt. I can't remember. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. So this is a project that I sewed last year when I was doing my 100-day project for sewing. It's just like a sweatshirt fleece with little cuffs. It's got pockets, which I've totally messed up, so I won't show you. But it's really cozy. I also messed up it's got this sort of cowl turtleneck, and I cut it wrong, so the selvedge shows in the back, but it's the back and I have hair, so it's fine. And I wasn't gonna like not do the neckline just because I messed it up a little. I could have made it shorter or something maybe, but it's just like straight up the back, so it looks like the seam is just kind of fuzzy, and that's fine. So I like to read a lot, as you all probably know, that what I'm reading is one of my things that I try to include in every video. But I also try to read craft-related books because it's inspiring. Both as a writer of books, I have written books in the past, and I like to do that. And so at least one of the books in here is sort of something I want to read as inspiration for a book project that I might be interested in, like shopping around in the near future. But it's just like great to learn. It's great to see what other people are doing. It's an entry point into crafts that might not be ones that you do yourself, but you want to learn more about. So I like to take myself to the library every now and then. I haven't been doing it much, since COVID. I've only probably been a couple times in the last couple years, but I like to go and just wander around in the nonfiction particularly, and just look at the new releases and like wander through the craft section and all that stuff, and just pick out whatever looks interesting. So sometimes I come up with like a giant stack that there's no way I could read all of in 2 weeks or even 6 weeks if I got the renewals. But I like just having, it's a way of acquiring books without having to find room on the bookshelf for them, which clearly I don't have. So I've got a couple of books like that in here, but some of these are books that I also own. This first one is called This Long Thread, Women of Color on Craft, Community, and Connection by Jen Hewitt. It's a collection of essays. I got this one for my birthday or for Christmas, I can't remember. It's a really pretty book, but it's just like interviews. I guess it's interviews more than, but there's some essays too. But talking to people of color who do sewing, weaving, knitting. The sections are why we craft, learning our craft, craft as a business, craft as political, handmade, past and present, making your place, perception and representation, and craft as community, and teaching craft. So all of that's like important. It's got some cute drawings, but all of those are important things to think about, whether you're a person of color in the industry or not. Though I'm sure that there are things that are different, and there are ways that people of color have been excluded from crafting. as an industry, but also just in general, that, you know, the idea that Black people don't knit or whatever, which is nonsense, but I know that that's a real perception that some people in the industry have perpetuated, and that it's not cool. And so I feel like that will be an interesting one to read and to learn from. The one that I was talking about related to potential book ideas of my own is this one, The Artistic Mother, by Shauna Cole. Her kids are probably grown by now. My daughter's 12, and so I don't feel like this subtitle is a practical guide for fitting creativity into your life. And I feel like, you know, I should, by the time she's almost 13, that I should have figured out how to bring creativity into my life, and I have. But still, like, that idea of mothers in particular, but parents, you know, not having time for their own creativity and their own self-expression as parents. I don't think that ever entirely goes away, even when your kids are older. So this book has like profiles of artists. It has tips, like this one's tips for working with children, which I love. There's different projects. That's a how-to page, so it's not very helpful. But like it's showing like shopping lists made into art. Let's see, vision statement, banner. So it has all these different projects, but it also has like reflections and essays and profiles of artists and things talking about, you know, motivation, planning, understanding creativity, different media that people use, and then it has a workshop section that is the different projects. This book is not new. It's been on my shelf for a long time. It was published in, I don't even see when it was published, 2010. So before I was even a mother. No, I was a mother. My daughter was 1 in 2010. I don't know time anymore. But anyway, so this is one that I have had on the shelf, not that whole time, but, you know, it's always an idea of like that, how do you fit creativity into your life? And that's sort of what our daily craft is about, is like making time for creativity every day and ideas for what to do when you have carved out that time, because sometimes it's, you know, you're like, oh, well, now I have a few minutes, but I don't know what I want to do. And so like having those projects and those ideas that you can refer to or think back on, like, oh, I saw this post and I want to try that, I think is really helpful. And so that's sort of been part of my reason for having a blog and for a lot of the things that I do, is like encouraging mothers and other busy people to make that time to create and give them inspiration for things to do when they have the time to do them. And I have long felt that that should be a book that I write, you know, even though there are plenty of great books on that subject out in the world. We all have different perspectives and come at it from different places. And so reading other books about that can help inspire me to think about what my own book might be. This one is related to our topic from last week. This is Improv Sewing by Nicole Blum and Deborah Immergut. If I pronounce that wrong. This one is largely, well, I shouldn't say largely. It has a lot of projects that are like with knit fabric. Like here's a little shirt. A lot of the garments are just with the knit fabric, and it's basically, the reason I say this is related to the work from last week, is that you're sort of basing your pattern pieces on t-shirts and clothes that already fit you, and then you're just embellishing those basic designs and doing them in different ways. So there's like skirts, there's different skirts, and it shows how to make your pattern for yourself, how to do sleeves. That's super handy because, like I said on this one, I was just tracing the sleeve shape, and that's not the best way to do it, but you know, I love this little dress. And then it has other projects too. So there's like curtains, pillows, mittens, a table runner. There's all sorts of projects in here in addition to the clothing. But the reason that I like this book is because it does inspire you and encourage you to make your own clothes and clothes for kids. Here's a little dress. My daughter's way bigger than that now. She could wear the adult-sized stuff. And it's also just like there's a lot of things that are embellishments. Like here's like taking, I assume that's like from an old t-shirt that's then put on this hat. So it's about using what you have and embellishing things and the details and that kind of stuff, which appeals to me, as you probably know. So I just pulled this one down again too, because I'm doing that kind of improv sewing myself right now, and so to re-inspire me to look at those and think about different ways that I could make projects that are simple like this but make them more interesting, like my patch pockets that I was talking about last time. Now to the library books. I always go through the knitting section, of course. This is Operation Sock Drawer from the Knitmore Girls. Yes, Knitmore Girls, who have a podcast called Knitmore Girls. It's just fun, funky, colorful sock patterns. Ooh, I like this one with the Greek key. That's always a design I've always liked and never used in a pattern of mine. There's some zigzaggy. I haven't knit any socks in a while, so I picked this up both to review on Craft Gossip, because I don't think it's that old. Maybe it came out in 2020. But also because I have a skein of sock yarn that I dyed after my daughter's birthday party. Those are cool. In rainbow colors. We did a tie-dye party, and I used the leftover dye to dye yarn. And I will probably just make a simple pair with those, but with that, because it's so colorful, and the color runs are probably going to be really short, so something easy will be good with that. But it's always good to have new sock patterns to look at. The last book I have for you today is this Hayoka Miyazaki book. It is a collection of essays and just information about the different movies that Miyazaki has made. It's got pictures. That's from Ponyo, right? No, that's My Neighbor Totoro. They look like Ponyo kids. And there's Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. We really like Miyazaki movies in our family, and I think this one's Ponyo, but it's the underwater scene. And so I really thought my daughter might be interested in looking at this, and she hasn't been yet, but it talks about all the different movies, and it has stills and layout drawings from before it was made into the movie. And Miyazaki hand draws things, like his stuff is not done on computers, so there's a lot of drawings and things, but there's also essays in here about different people's reflections on his career and his movies and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think it'll be interesting for me to read too, but it's also just fun to flip through and look at the pictures of different things from some of the movies we haven't seen and some that we have, and I believe all of the Miyazaki movies are available on HBO Max now. So if you're not familiar with Miyazaki, or you only know like My Neighbor Totoro or Spirited Away, there are a lot of great movies. Some are good for kids, some are not good, not as good for kids, but they're all really beautiful and interesting and inspirational. And that's the thing too, like, right, as crafters who might use fiber or paint or whatever, you do film and music and poetry and novels, and all of that can inspire you in ways that you might not, sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's not clear, but being consumers of media of different sorts from what you yourself craft in can be really important and interesting to show you different things and inspire you in different ways. The use of color, different concepts of design and textures and things, and the knitwear in movies and all that stuff can be really inspiring, and not always in ways that are obvious, which is fun. So there's what I want to be reading, what I'm actually reading. I've been finishing up some book reviews for Forward this week, and I said last week that I was reading Pretty Little Liars, which is not true. I was reading Big Little Lies. Names of books that are too similar, and when you're reading the book, you don't know what the title is. So, but anyway, I finished Big Little Lies a few days ago and have just started watching the series, which is on HBO also. I've watched a couple episodes of that, and of course, much like with her other book that was made into a series, Nine Perfect Strangers is like more dramatic and TV. David Kelly did it, so that's like original 90210 and stuff. I mean, he's a legend, but has done a lot of like sort of soapy high dramas for TV, so that's fun. I just started last night Cloud Cuckoo Land, which I've heard great things about. It's very long. It's 600 and some pages, which is fine. You know that I don't shy from long books, but it feels like a lot right now as I'm trying to finish some other things, and I just want to dive into it, and I don't have time right now. And I also want to read some other things, right? And it's hard when you do ebooks because they're automatically returned when it's been 2 weeks, and I don't think I can read this one in 2 weeks. Of course, pro tip, turn your Kindle to airplane mode and then it won't connect and know that it's due, which I don't like to do that. I try to challenge myself to actually finish it, but I know that it's, I was on hold for a while for it, so if I don't finish it, I won't be able to renew it right away. So that's my big reading for the next couple weeks, I guess. And yeah, I think that's about it. I was actually, this is fun, I was telling you a couple weeks ago about saying yes to things, and then I was writing for some new publications, and one of which is the Arkansas Times, and one of the assignments that I had for them was to write a piece about a podcast, and I'm not a podcast person. I don't ever talk about podcasts here, as you'll know, because I don't ever listen to podcasts. I feel like I really have to listen, and I know people who do podcasts while they're doing chores, which I could probably do that, or while they're working, and I just can't. Talking while I'm working is really hard for me because I'm trying to listen, and I can't listen and write or read words if I'm editing something. It just doesn't work for me. So I have never been into podcasts, but I was like, okay, cool. It was a true crime podcast called Hell and Gone, and the host is a journalist and private investigator who is from Arkansas. She lives in New York now, Catherine Townsend. This is the 4th season of the series, and the second one that she has done related to a cold case in Arkansas. They're all about women who have mysterious disappearances, violent deaths, whatever, that have been unsolved for years and years. And so this current one is about Epi Stepik, who was 18 and she disappeared in Little Rock. But she disappeared and her car was found in a park, and years later her body was found in the same park in a drain pipe that had never been searched previously. And so she's trying to figure out what actually happened to her. Was it a drug overdose and people panicked and stuffed her body in this pipe? Was she murdered? What happened to her? And so the season's not done yet, but I'm still, the story was filed, it's been published, I'm still listening to it because I kind of want to know if she has found anything out. And they're sort of up to the live, so the current ones she's doing were produced after the season started, and so she's been getting more tips and things and being able to investigate different stuff that wasn't available to her before the podcast came out. So it's really interesting to see. It's kind of like a real-time crime drama. I'm not that into true crime either, but it like sucked me in, and she is so delightful. Like, not the stereotypical Arkansas accent, but if you're from Arkansas, you'll recognize that voice. And it's nice. And so that's, if you're into podcasts and you're into true crime, check out Hell and Gone. It's on iHeart. And I think that's all for this week. Lots of stuff I want to dive into, and so hopefully I can carve out some time for that this weekend. And I hope that you can carve out some time for some creative stuff. I would love to know what you're working on, what you are reading, watching, listening to, so I can add to my never-ending list of all the things. And I hope that you have a great crafty week, and I will see you again soon.